Foundational leaders are almost always memorialized at the geographical and political center of their nations. David Ben-Gurion held the authority to declare the State of Israel into existence, pushing the decision through by a single, highly contested vote. But despite his role as the ultimate political insider, you will not find his grave in Jerusalem's pantheon of leaders on Mount Herzl. He chose a different location, an isolated cliff edge in Sde Boker, overlooking the desolate expanses of the Negev desert. Curious, this raises a question about the nature of his power. Why did the man who built the state center choose to exile his own legacy to the extreme periphery? His tombstone defies standard burial conventions, presenting an unusual set of data to anyone who visits. While most graves list only birth and death, Ben-Gurion's includes a third, distinct line of text. That date is 1906. The year he first immigrated to the land. He categorized this arrival as his second birth, a moment more significant to his identity than his actual birthday in Poland. This grave functions as a final geographical message, forcing future generations to look away from the cities and toward the pioneer roots of the state. In 1953, Ben-Gurion was driving through the Negev when he encountered a small group of pioneers working in the fields. Inspired by their work ethic, he decided on the spot to resign from office and join them. The members of the kibbutz were hesitant to accept a world leader into their egalitarian community. They debated the move intensely, only voting him in by a very narrow margin. He moved into a humble, green wooden hut, replacing his global influence with a life of severe architectural simplicity. He maintained a rigorous intellectual schedule here, housing a library of 5,000 volumes and reading in 11 different languages to stay connected to global history and philosophy. His Spartan bedroom featured a single bed, allowing him to work and study through the night without disturbing his wife. His wife, Paula, managed his health with similar intensity, famously forcing him to consume her Pootsy-Mootsy health shakes every morning, despite his vocal disgust. This micro-life was a performance of his personal ideology, an attempt to live as the ideal, disciplined pioneer citizen he wanted others to become. He maintained his vitality through strict physical routines, walking miles through the desert with soldiers and performing daily headstands on the beach to sharpen his focus. He used this move to the desert to physically extract himself from the Tel Aviv political bubble. He deliberately severed his own daily influence over the cabinet. By removing the founder from the room, he forced the government to develop its own institutional strength, independent of his personality. Relinquishing his seat at the center of power was an exercise in long-term leadership, proving that the state was now strong enough to survive without him. The site at Sde Boker sits atop the watershed lines of the desert, where seasonal rains flow toward the Dead Sea. Ben-Gurion operated with a constant historical consciousness, believing his present choices were a script for the future of the nation. He kept meticulous journals, often writing entries that functioned as direct addresses to future generations, explaining his rationale so his successors could follow his logic. He believed the ultimate test of Israel's survival would be decided here, in the harsh, unconquered conditions of the Negev desert. Refusing a state burial in Jerusalem was a final strategic move. It forces future leaders and citizens to physically travel to the periphery to understand the origins of their country. Ben-Gurion walked away from the center of power to plant a flag on the hardest frontier, ensuring that the roots of the state remained anchored in the desert.